I was 38 when my life came apart at the seams. Up until then, I thought I had a grip on what it meant to be a man, a brother, a husband. I had built my life on the shaky foundation of loyalty, believing that blood was thicker than water and that family, no matter how imperfect, was the one place you could rest your head without fear of betrayal. I was wrong. My name is Daniel. I live just outside of Chicago in a modest house with my wife, Emily, and our 10-year-old daughter, Sophie. I had a steady career in construction management. Nothing glamorous, but it put food on the table and kept us warm in the brutal Midwestern winters. My younger brother, Adam, was the one with the shine, the charisma. He could walk into a room and immediately own it. I used to envy him for that, even as kids. Growing up, I was the protector, the one who'd step between him and our father's belt, the one who'd help him with homework when he couldn't focus. I thought we had an unshakable bond. He was reckless, yes, but I believed he would always look out for me, the way I looked out for him. That illusion shattered one ordinary Tuesday evening. I had come home later than usual, stuck at the site after a delivery mix-up. Emily was quiet at dinner, her fork barely touching her plate. Sophie chattered about her art project, and I tried to focus on her, but the weight of Emily's silence pressed on me like a storm cloud. After Sophie went upstairs, I asked her what was wrong. She hesitated, eyes darting to the floor. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "It's Adam." My stomach dropped. In that moment, I didn't know what she meant. Was he hurt? In trouble with the law again? But the way she avoided my eyes told me it was something worse, something personal. I pressed, my voice harsher than I intended. "What about Adam?" She finally met my gaze, tears welling up. "He's been calling me, texting me, saying things he shouldn't." My chest burned. I wanted to believe I'd misheard, that she was exaggerating, that there was some misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew Adam. I knew his reckless charm, the way he could talk himself into or out of anything. "What do you mean, things he shouldn't?" I asked, already dreading the answer. Her lip trembled. "He said he thinks about me, that he made a mistake not being with me years ago, that he—" She broke off, shaking her head. I felt the air leave my lungs. My brother, my own brother. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. The sound of the refrigerator humming filled the silence. Emily's eyes pleaded with me, searching for reassurance, maybe even forgiveness. But all I felt was a fire rising in my chest, choking me. "Did you—" I swallowed hard. "Did you respond?" Her tears spilled then. "I told him to stop. I told him it was wrong, but he wouldn't. He just kept pushing, Daniel." The world tilted. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. Every memory I had of Adam, us building forts as kids, sneaking beers in high school, me bailing him out when he got arrested at 22, flickered in my mind like a cruel slideshow. This was the brother I had defended my whole life, and now he was circling my wife like a predator. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Emily's soft breathing beside me, my mind a whirlpool of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. How could he? Of all the women in the world, why her? By dawn, one thing was clear. Whatever bond I thought I had with Adam had been broken, maybe forever. And if I didn't confront this, it would rot everything I had left, my marriage, my family, maybe even my own sense of self. I didn't yet know just how deep the betrayal went, or how far Adam was willing to push, but I knew one thing. The brother I once loved had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The next day at work, I couldn't concentrate. Blueprints blurred, numbers slipped, and the chatter of my crew was just static. All I could see was Adam's smirking face. All I could hear were Emily's trembling words. I knew I had to confront him, but how? Do you go straight in with fists, or do you try to reason with someone who has already proven he doesn't respect boundaries? I decided on a middle ground. That evening, after Sophie was asleep, I drove to Adam's apartment downtown. My knuckles tapped the steering wheel the whole ride, a nervous drumbeat keeping time with my heartbeat. The city lights glared in my windshield, and by the time I pulled up, my mouth was dry, palms slick with sweat. Adam opened the door shirtless, a beer in his hand, grinning like he hadn't a care in the world. "Danny boy," he boomed, pulling me into a one-armed hug. The smell of hops and cologne clung to him. I pushed him back. "We need to talk." He raised an eyebrow, the grin fading. "Okay, what's with the tone?" "Emily told me everything," I said flatly. For a split second, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Guilt? But he masked it quickly, tossing the beer onto the counter. "Everything what?" "Don't play dumb. The texts, the calls, you coming after my wife." He chuckled, shaking his head like I'd just accused him of robbing a bank. "Jesus, Danny, she's exaggerating. You know how women get. I might have joked around, maybe said something stupid after a couple drinks, but come on, you know me." That smug tone lit the fuse in my chest. I stepped closer. "Don't you dare try to spin this. You crossed a line, Adam. She told you to stop, and you didn't." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, man, He hesitated, eyes darting. Then he smirked again. "What's the real problem here? Afraid she realized she married the wrong brother?" I lunged before I even knew I'd moved. My hand fisted his shirt, slamming him against the wall. The beer can toppled, spilling foam across the counter. "You think this is a joke?" I hissed. "You think you can destroy my family and laugh it off?" His grin faltered, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Okay, calm down, man. Jesus." I let go, stepping back, chest heaving. My fists ached from clenching. "You stay away from Emily," I said, my voice low and shaking. "If you ever contact her again, I swear." "What? You'll hit me? You'll disown me?" His tone was mocking again, though his eyes betrayed nerves. "We're brothers, Danny. Blood. You can't just cut me out." I stared at him, and in that moment, I realized something that gutted me. He believed that. He believed he could do anything, betray, manipulate, cross every line, and still be entitled to my loyalty? I walked out without another word. At home, Emily was waiting. Her face was pale, her eyes rimmed red. "Did you talk to him?" she asked, voice small. "Yeah," I said, collapsing onto the couch. "He won't stop unless I make him." Her hands twisted in her lap. "I don't want this to come between you two." I laughed bitterly. "Come between us? He came after you. He put himself between us." Her eyes welled again, and guilt knifed through me. She was terrified, not just of Adam, but of what this meant for us. That night, I held her close, but sleep was elusive. Every creak of the house felt like a threat, every shadow like Adam lurking. My mind spun with impossible questions. Do I tell Sophie? Do I tell our parents? Do I cut Adam off completely? The days turned into weeks. Adam didn't stop. He got sneakier. Messages from unknown numbers, comments that sounded innocent to outsiders but dripped with meaning to Emily. He even showed up once at Sophie's soccer game, leaning against the fence, waving like he belonged there. I saw red. I walked over, fists clenched, but he just smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "Supporting my niece," he said loudly, for the benefit of the parents nearby. Emily pulled me back, whispering, "Not here, please." That was the worst of it. He knew how to play the part. To everyone else, he was charming Uncle Adam. Only we knew the poison beneath. The strain began to show at home. Emily withdrew, Sophie sensed something was wrong, and I found myself snapping at both of them over little things. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop.
I was caught in a constant state of fight or flight, waiting for the next move. At work, I started slipping. Missed deadlines, sloppy mistakes. My boss, Carl, pulled me aside. "You okay, Dan? You don't seem yourself." I wanted to unload everything, but how do you explain that your brother is trying to steal your wife? Instead, I muttered something about stress at home. One night, Emily and I fought. She said she felt unsafe, that maybe we should move, change numbers, start fresh. "And let him win?" I snapped. "This isn't about winning or losing," she cried. "It's about our family, Daniel, our daughter. Don't you see what this is doing to us?" Her words gutted me. She was right. Sophie had started asking why Mommy cried so much, why Daddy was always angry. We were breaking apart, and Adam was pulling the strings. That night, after Emily went to bed, I sat in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey. My hands shook as I typed a message to Adam. "This ends now. Meet me tomorrow, alone."
Morning came heavy. I barely slept, and when I did, it was shallow, haunted by dreams where Adam stood in my house, his hand on Emily's shoulder, Sophie clinging to her mother's leg, while I stood frozen, voiceless. I left early, telling Emily I had an early site meeting. She didn't press me. Maybe she sensed where I was going. We met at a diner we used to haunt in our 20s. Back then, we'd sit for hours over greasy burgers, laughing about girls, planning lives that seemed endless. Now, when Adam slid into the booth across from me, it was like sitting across from a stranger who wore my brother's face. He grinned, sipping black coffee. "What's with the drama, Danny? You look like hell." I leaned forward. "This is it, Adam. Whatever game you're playing, it stops today. You don't call, you don't text, you don't show up. You're done." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You sound like Dad." The comparison burned. Our father was a tyrant, a man who ruled with fists and fear. Adam knew invoking him was a knife to my gut. "Don't twist this," I snapped. "I'm protecting my family. That's what a man does." His grin faded. For a moment, I saw something raw in his eyes. Resentment, jealousy, maybe even pain. Then he smirked again. "You think Emily doesn't see it? The way you bury yourself in work, come home with nothing left to give? She deserves better. She deserves someone who makes her feel alive." My nails dug crescents into my palms. "And you think that's you?" He leaned back, arms spread like a king on his throne. "Why not? She's already thinking about it." The words landed like a punch. My chest heaved, and I had to fight the urge to leap across the table and break his smirk with my fists. But a part of me, the part that feared, whispered, "What if he's right?" I threw money on the table and stood. "Stay away from her. Stay away from us, or I swear, Adam, brother or not, you'll regret it." For a while, he backed off. A week passed without messages, without appearances. Emily breathed easier, Sophie smiled more, and I almost let myself believe it was over. But the quiet was a trap. One Friday evening, I came home to find Emily sitting on the edge of the bed, pale and trembling, holding her phone. "What is it?" I asked, dread coiling in my gut. She handed it to me. On the screen was a photo, Adam shirtless in his apartment mirror, captioned, "Thinking of you." I saw red. My hands shook so hard the phone slipped onto the bed. Emily covered her face with her hands, sobbing. That night, I broke. I drove to my parents' house, stormed inside without knocking. Mom was in the kitchen, surprised by my entrance, but I brushed past her and found Dad in his recliner watching some old Western. He looked up, scowling. "What's your problem?" "Adam," I spat. "Do you know what he's doing?" Dad sighed, muted the TV. "What now?" "He's harassing Emily, my wife, your daughter-in-law. He's sending her messages, pictures, crossing every line." For a long moment, silence hung heavy. Then Dad said, "He's always been like that. Can't help himself." I stared, disbelief flooding me. Can't help himself? He's trying to destroy my marriage? Mom appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands. "Danny, maybe he just needs help.
"You know your brother?" My laugh was hollow. "You're both unbelievable. You've been excusing him his whole damn life, and now you want me to excuse this? No, not anymore." I left them stunned in their silence. For the first time, I saw clearly. I couldn't count on anyone to stop Adam. Not my parents, not the law, not his own conscience. If I wanted peace, if I wanted to protect Emily and Sophie, I had to be the one to end it. The tension at home grew unbearable. Emily started locking her phone away, afraid Sophie might stumble on a message. I started drinking more, nursing whiskeys in the dark. Every knock on the door, every buzz of the phone sent adrenaline spiking. Then came the night everything tipped. It was late. Sophie was asleep upstairs, Emily in the shower. A knock echoed through the house. I froze, then opened the door. Adam stood there. He was dressed nice, jeans, button-down shirt, cologne sharp in the night air. His eyes were glassy, drunk, but his grin was steady. "Thought I'd stop by," he said, pushing past me into the living room. I grabbed his arm. "Get out." "Relax," he said, shaking me off. "I just wanted to see her." "See who?" "Emily." His voice dropped, almost tender. "I need to tell her how I feel. She deserves to hear it from me." My vision tunneled. Every muscle in my body screamed to strike him, to end this once and for all. But upstairs, the water shut off. Emily was coming. I shoved him back toward the door. "You're not going near her. Not now, not ever." He laughed, low and bitter. "You think you can keep her forever? She'll leave, Danny. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day she'll wake up and realize she's settled. And when she does, I'll be waiting." I slammed the door on him, heart pounding, chest heaving like I'd run a marathon. Emily came down the stairs moments later, hair wet, robe wrapped tight. She saw my face and knew. "Was it him?" she whispered. I nodded. She covered her mouth, sinking into the couch. "We can't live like this," she said, voice breaking. "We can't." And she was right. Something had to give. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Emily's soft sobs. Sophie stirred in her room, calling for me in a dream, and I went to her, sat by her bed, stroked her hair until she settled. My heart ached. I couldn't let this poison seep into her childhood. Something shifted in me then. For weeks, I'd been reacting, angry, scared, lost. But lying there beside my daughter, I realized I couldn't just defend anymore. I had to act. Adam wouldn't stop, because no one had ever made him stop. Not my parents, not the law, not his own conscience. If I wanted peace, if I wanted to protect Emily and Sophie, I had to be the one to end it, whatever that meant. The next morning, I called Adam. My voice was steady, colder than I felt inside. "We need to talk. One last time." He chuckled on the other end. "Haven't we been through this already?" "This isn't a request," I said. "Meet me at Dad's old shop. Noon." Silence. Then, "Fine. Noon. Don't be late, brother." The shop had been shuttered for years, dust coating the tools, shelves empty except for rust and cobwebs. It was where Dad taught us to swing a hammer, to fix cars, to fight if we had to. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here, in the shadow of his legacy, Adam and I were about to decide ours. I arrived early, the sun slanting through broken windows, dust swirling in golden beams. My fists clenched and unclenched as I paced, every nerve on edge. When Adam walked in, he looked almost casual, as if this were just another Saturday errand. Jeans, leather jacket, that same damn smirk. "Feels nostalgic, doesn't it?" he said, glancing around. "Two brothers, back where it all started." "This isn't a reunion," I said. "This is the end." He raised an eyebrow. "The end of what?" "You harassing Emily, poisoning my family. You don't come near us again." He laughed, shaking his head. "You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about you, Danny. It never was. Emily and I, we connect. She understands me. More than you ever did. I stepped closer, my voice shaking with fury. She's my wife, the mother of my child. She told you no, over and over, and you kept pushing. That's not connection, Adam. That's obsession. That's betrayal. His smirk faltered, just for a moment. Then he sneered. Betrayal? You want to talk betrayal? All my life, I've been second to you. Dad's golden boy, the responsible one, the protector. I was always the screw-up, the shadow. Don't act like you don't know it. I froze. His words hit somewhere deep. He wasn't wrong. Dad had always held me up as the standard, even when I didn't want it. And Adam had been measured against me, always found wanting. But that didn't excuse this. You think wrecking my marriage makes us even? I spat. You think stealing my wife will fix the hole in you? His voice rose, echoing off the concrete walls. She deserves someone who sees her, not some worn-out shell who comes home and barely talks to her. She told me things, Danny, things she doesn't tell you. My chest tightened. What things? He smirked again, cruel this time. That she feels alone. That sometimes she wonders what her life would have been if she'd chosen differently, if she'd chosen me. Rage exploded in me. I lunged, shoving him hard against the wall. His head smacked the concrete, and for a moment I thought I'd gone too far. But he just laughed, low and bitter. There it is, he said. The real you, the violent one, just like Dad. I staggered back, breath ragged. His words cut deeper than any blade. Was that true? Was I just a mirror of the man I'd sworn never to become? No, I whispered, more to myself than him. Adam pushed off the wall, wiping blood from his lip where he'd bitten it. Face it, Danny, you're weak. You always hide behind duty, behind family, behind that damn halo they put on you. But me? I live free. I take what I want. I looked at him then, really looked, and what I saw wasn't freedom. It was emptiness. A man desperate to fill a void he didn't understand, willing to burn everything around him to feel whole for a moment. You're pathetic, I said quietly, and I won't let you drag us down with you. He stepped closer, eyes blazing. And what are you going to do? Cut me off? Pretend I don't exist? You can't erase me, Danny. I'm your brother, your blood. The weight of those words pressed on me. Blood, family, the chains I'd carried my whole life. But in that moment, standing there in Dad's abandoned shop, I realized something. Family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's who you stand by, who you protect, who you honor. And Adam had forfeited that. I don't care if we share blood, I said, my voice steady. You're not my brother anymore. His face twisted, fury and disbelief battling in his eyes. You don't mean that? I do. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by our ragged breathing. Then he laughed, hollow and sharp. Fine, walk away. But don't think this is over. She'll come to me one day. And when she does, I cut him off, stepping so close I could smell the alcohol on his breath. If you ever come near Emily or Sophie again, I'll destroy you. And it won't be with fists. It'll be with the truth. I'll tell everyone who you are. Mom, Dad, your friends, your job. I'll burn your mask to the ground, and you'll be left with nothing. For the first time, his smirk faltered into something else, fear. I turned and walked out, leaving him in the ruins of our childhood. When I got home, Emily was waiting, eyes wide with worry. Where were you? I sank on the couch, exhausted, hitting me like a wave. It's done, I said. He won't bother us again. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for reassurance. Are you sure? I nodded, though deep inside, a flicker of doubt remained. Adam was like a weed. You cut him down, he found a way to grow back. But this time, I'd made it clear. I wasn't afraid to pull him out by the roots. Emily sat beside me, her hand finding mine. For the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. But peace is fragile, and family wounds run deep.
The days after the confrontation were heavy with silence. Adam didn't call, didn't show up, and at first I allowed myself a cautious relief. But the quiet felt fragile, like a tightrope stretched over a canyon. One wrong move, one message, one misstep, and it could all collapse. Emily and I spent hours talking, sometimes at the kitchen table, sometimes walking the empty streets near our house. We talked about fear, anger, guilt, and the future. For the first time in months, we spoke honestly, without layers of defense or resentment. "I was scared," she admitted one evening, her fingers wrapped around a mug of tea. "Scared of what he might do, scared of what I might feel. I hated feeling like I had to hide from him, from you, even from myself." I reached for her hand, squeezing gently. "I know, and I hate that I let him get inside my head. I let him make me question us." We both sat in silence for a while, the kind that's not uncomfortable but restorative. Sophie's laughter drifted down the stairs, breaking the tension, and we smiled. Life was fragile, yes, but it was still ours to protect. Adam's attempts to reassert himself were subtle at first. Mutual friends casually mentioning seeing him in town, vague social media posts that seemed designed to provoke. I kept my distance, refusing to rise to his provocations. I realized that victory wasn't about revenge, it was about control. Control of my household, my heart, my family's peace. At work, I threw myself into projects with renewed focus, not as an escape, but as a way to regain stability. The crew noticed. Carl, my boss, gave me a nod of approval. "Looks like you found your footing again," he said. I just nodded, knowing that grounding myself in routine and responsibility was part of reclaiming my life. The hardest part was dealing with my parents. I'd cut Adam off completely, and naturally, they were furious. Mom called me repeatedly, pleading, crying, trying to convince me to forgive him. Dad, silent as ever, sent texts with clipped lines. Family sticks together. I realized something crucial. Protecting my family sometimes meant standing alone. I couldn't let guilt manipulate me into undoing the hard boundaries I had set. Finally, I went to them, not to argue, but to explain. "I love you," I said, my voice firm but calm. "But what Adam did, what he tried to do, is unforgivable. If you condone it, I can't be around it. I have to protect Emily and Sophie. That's non-negotiable." There was silence. Then, slowly, Mom's voice trembled. "I don't like it, Danny, but I understand. You're right. He crossed the line." Dad remained stoic, but he didn't argue. It was the first time in years I felt I was finally speaking with authority, not just as a son, but a man in control of his family's well-being. Over time, Emily and I rebuilt trust, not in grand gestures, but in small, steady actions. Cooking meals together, reading Sophie bedtime stories without distraction, taking walks on weekends where we laughed and talked. I learned to listen, really listen, and to let her fears and frustrations spill out without defensiveness. Sophie was slower to heal, of course. She noticed the tension, the absence of her uncle, the shadow of conflict. But I talked to her honestly, in age-appropriate ways. I explained that sometimes people make bad choices, even family, and it's okay to set boundaries. I told her that Daddy and Mommy would always keep her safe. One evening, as she curled up in my lap with a book, I felt a surge of protective pride. "I'm glad we're together, Dad," she said softly. "I like our family." I kissed her hair, feeling the weight of months lift just a little. "Me too, Sophie. Me too." Adam tried one last manipulation, an anonymous message to Emily suggesting she meet him somewhere, claiming he had something important to say. She showed me immediately, hands shaking. I called him directly. This time, no warnings, no reasoning. "If you ever contact us again, I will involve authorities. You're done, Adam. Completely done."
The line went dead, silence, and for the first time, I believed it would hold. The following months were about regaining equilibrium. I sought counseling, not because I was weak, but because I wanted to process the rage, the betrayal, the fear, and to learn how to rebuild trust fully. Emily joined me. Together, we developed strategies for communication, emotional support, and resilience. Sophie thrived, her laughter returning in full force. We started family traditions, game nights, weekend hikes, simple routines that built stability. I realized that protecting family wasn't just about keeping the bad away. It was about nurturing what was good, present, and real. And then came a quiet evening, months later, when Emily and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You did the right thing," she said. I felt a mix of relief and lingering grief. Family wasn't just Adam or the past. It was Emily. It was the choice to stand up for them, no matter the cost. "I hope so," I said, "but it's still hard. I keep thinking about him and how someone you love can betray you so completely." She squeezed my hand. "We can't control other people, Danny, only how we respond." Her words sank in. That night, I finally felt the tension loosen. I wasn't naive. I knew Adam could try again. But I also knew I had the strength, the boundaries, and the clarity to protect the ones I loved. In the weeks and months that followed, Adam faded from our lives entirely. Mutual friends stopped asking about him. Emily's fears eased. Sophie grew more confident, oblivious to the shadow that had loomed over her home. And I discovered a new sense of self, resilient, vigilant, and clear about what family truly meant. I also began to forgive myself for the anger that scared me, for the moments I snapped at Emily or Sophie, for the time I let fear guide me instead of courage. Forgiveness wasn't about Adam, it was about reclaiming my own life. By the end of the year, our home felt like a sanctuary again. No blood ties could undo the bonds we chose to protect and nurture. I had learned that family is not a birthright. It's a responsibility, a conscious choice, and sometimes it's about walking away from those who betray that trust.
Sitting on the porch one evening, watching Sophie chase fireflies in the fading light, I realized how fragile life and trust can be. Betrayal doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It creeps in, subtle and corrosive, eroding the foundation you thought was unshakable. I had always believed that blood guaranteed loyalty, that family was automatic, unquestionable. Adam proved me wrong. What I learned is that family isn't a given. It's a choice, repeated every day, in words and actions, in protection and honesty. Blood alone doesn't bind hearts or morals. It's our decisions that do. I chose Emily. I chose Sophie. And when Adam crossed that line, I chose to defend them, even at the cost of love for my brother, even at the cost of my own peace. Betrayal has a way of revealing the raw edges of who we are. I discovered anger and protectiveness in myself I didn't know I could feel. I discovered fear that could paralyze me and courage that could propel me to confront it. And in confronting Adam, I learned that boundaries are not cruel, they are necessary. Protecting those you love requires strength, clarity, and sometimes the willingness to sever bonds that were once sacred. I also realized the subtle power of forgiveness, not for the betrayer, but for myself. Carrying anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. Letting go of the bitterness freed me to rebuild, to nurture my marriage, to be the father Sophie needed, to reclaim the life Adam tried to invade. Forgiveness was not forgetting, it was reclaiming my right to peace and happiness. Resilience, I've come to understand, is not an innate trait, it's cultivated through struggle. It's the ability to stand firm when everything inside you wants to collapse. It's the quiet persistence of showing up for those who matter, even when fear and grief demand otherwise. Watching Sophie grow, Emily heal, and our home regain warmth, I felt the tangible result of resilience, the living proof that one can endure profound hurt and still protect what is precious. And finally, I learned that love itself is active. It is not passive acceptance or blind loyalty. It is action, effort, and sometimes confrontation. Loving someone means safeguarding them, standing by them, and sometimes choosing them over people who once meant everything to you. My love for Emily and Sophie demanded courage I didn't know I had, and in meeting that demand, I discovered who I truly am. Family, trust, loyalty, resilience, they are all measured not by circumstance, but by choice. We are defined by the lines we draw, the people we stand up for, and the principles we refuse to compromise. Adam's betrayal was a wound, but it was also a revelation. It forced me to confront uncomfortable truths, to act decisively, and to protect the life I had built. And in doing so, I learned the most human of lessons. We are stronger than we know, more resilient than we imagine, and capable of preserving what we cherish most, even in the face of the deepest treachery. As the fireflies disappeared into the night, Sophie laughing at some fleeting whim, Emily resting her head on my shoulder, I felt the weight of the past ease. The scars remained, but they no longer defined me. What defined me now was choice, love, and the unbreakable bond we had forged together. A bond that blood alone could never guarantee.